What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to another round of My Patriot Report. I'm your host, Ratuan Hill, the service disabled veteran, the protege, the bridge builder for the next generation who looking to shake up things in federal contracting. And beside me, I have the Oracle, the Morpheus of federal contracting, Mr. Walter Cotton III, the individual responsible for helping the service disabled veteran owned small business community, moving the contracting needle from 750 million to well over 19 billion with the beat. Mr. Cotton, how you doing, man? How was the weekend?
I am well. The weekend was interesting and challenging, man. As I told you privately, I'm trying to buy the wife a new car, and she's got her heart set on this particular model. It's an Audi Q8, and we found one. I used my manifestation powers to create one that was the best value, man. It's a black with chocolate interior. It's a premier prestige. I mean, it's like, top of the line and so on and so forth. And so we're going through the process equally of learning how to collaborate in our relationship. So it was an interesting weekend as we worked through the process of getting that transaction under our belt. But I'm good.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Yeah, we know you gotta keep that was happy wife, happy life.
Well, I think they say happy spouse, happy house.
Yeah, absolutely. Indeed. Both ways. Yeah. Okay, so listen, I want to talk about, we know that there are three branches of government. We got the legislative, executive, judicial, but there's a fourth branch of government that they don't talk about in your civics class. And essentially it's the engine, it's the people who actually build the roads, write the code, and secure the bases. It's us, it's we the people. My question is to you is, I want to get straight into the concept we spoke about in recent LinkedIn lives. Most people think that this government is, well, everybody who's outside of the federal contracting space, they think this is a big machine that, essentially does everything itself. But the reality is pretty much the government pretty much is just a big, checkbook. If Congress Congress passed a law to fix the bridge, Congress not the one picking up the shovel. We are. So in layman terms, when we say the people are the fourth branch, what does that actually mean for the individuals who's watching this now?
What it means is your voice actually, literally matters. Unlike the people in Iran who are out in the streets marching, who are going to have their voice decided by the government, right? By a tyrannical, autocratic government in these United States of America, where we have a constitution, the people's voice matters. What the people say goes. So if the people come together in one unified voice, they tell the king, take your army and go home, and they create the independent United States of America. And today that capability still exists. Whenever our leadership gets to a point where they are unmanageable, we the people have the inalienable duty to replace them. And so the fourth hidden branch of government is we the people coming together of a unified mind to change the direction or the poor performance of our existing elected officials. And based on what I'm seeing coming out of this administration, the polarization that's being created in the streets of Minnesota as the spouse of a veteran is gunned down in the streets, and the debate as to whether or not that action was premeditated or not is something that we're discussing. It's those kinds of behaviors and actions that our forefathers saw a need to create that hidden fourth branch for, right? And this is the time for we the people to wake up and say, hey, hold on a second, right? Looks like a duck, quack like a duck. It may be a duck, okay? And so I, for one, am the kind of patriot that knows my rights under the Constitution, right? You know, I've got a fraternity. And we are uncomfortable with some of the behaviors and the actions that we are seeing out of this administration. And it is our time to do something about it. So I, for one, am, sounding the alarm for the fourth branch of government. It's time for us to get our feces amalgamated and get in the game and do something about it. So I'll be up in Washington, D.C. after the 14th of this week, meeting with some of my congressional friends, but more of my fraternity brothers, as we put the strategy in place for the solution I'm implementing and anchoring in St. Petersburg, Florida. And for those of you who've been with me before, you know I'm telling you about what I'm about to do. I'm not telling you about what I'm talking about, I'm telling you about what I'm about to do. And what I'm about to do is create a $50 billion outcome in the state of Florida in 2026. So if you've got ears to hear and eyes to see, this is your time, and you're a veteran, this is your time to get your feces amalgamated and join me down in St. Petersburg, Florida. Follow that URL that you see across the screen so you can become a part of the Elite Service Disabled Veteran Network, so we can go through the process of taking our country back.
Oh man, that was powerful. We took it there off the rip. I was gonna let it build, but since we there, I actually saw the president speaking today on a news report where, not to be political or anything, but he was speaking on that situation, what happened with the lady who was murdered by the ICE agent, that essentially they pretty much have immunity to all this, to any action. So they can't really be held accountable. I know that there's still ongoing investigations and stuff. But I could see that as a concern where, is that, okay, my question is that an opportunity where we the people, is that another opportunity where we the people have a voice to voice our opinion, or is that something more political or something that out of our control?
I think it's a clear example of the we the people mechanism at work. Mm-hmm. Right? The administration has its perspective. The local government has, its perspective, but the people, right, showed up this weekend en masse, mm-hmm. and in one deep-throated voice delivered the people's opinion. Mm-hmm. And now the federal government and the state government are going to react to the will of the people. And I've listened to the argument on all sides of the equation, and I understand the argument from law enforcement's perspective. A vehicle, a 2-ton, 3-ton vehicle traveling at them, at speed is weaponized, right? That's something that, they have to utilize lethal force to, stop. But the, basic training says that you don't put yourself in a position when you're doing community policing, right, to cause the citizenry to make that kind of an error or a mistake. And in this particular situation, we have all of that, right? The person in question is walking around the car videotaping, right? I'm not sure exactly what the policing mindset of that was, but videotaping and put himself in a position, right, in a charged situation, to be less defendable. right? The least defendable position, right? And he put himself in a position where he had to make the choice that we have to make every day. Every person out there has to make the decision to hit the brake or hit the horn. That's
Mm-hmm.
that's a simple situation, right? Right. We're driving down the road. You have the choice, right? Do I slow down a little bit and allow that other citizen who has made a mistake, a slight error, to adjust, right? Or do I compound their issue, right? In this particular instance or situation, it looks like the law enforcement officer compounded the situation. And given the fact that this is an individual who's had this kind of a circumstance in the past, one could make the connection that there was a predisposition, a predilection to taking a certain action in the event, if that ever happens again. If that ever happens again, I'll tell you one thing for sure. I'm not going to be the only one going to the hospital, right? So if you got those kinds of energies that are in the ecosystem, right, that stuff needs to be calmed down. And that stuff starts with rhetoric, right? It starts with people feeling emboldened to take actions when no one does anything to check them. I was watching this NBA player, was real recently, retired NBA player, and he was one of the bad boys. I mean, one of those guys that would fight at the drop of a hat. Mm-hmm. And he was explaining how he got there. And he said when he went to training camp for the first time, he was playing in a pickup game, before practice with one of the guys. And, he's from the hood. Most of those guys are just from the street, right? And so one of the seasoned players checked him, right? Mm-hmm. And he fell down. He said he got up from being checked and he did what he does instinctively on the street. He checked the guy's jaw and started breaking everything down. And he said when he looked up, the coach was chastising the other guy. Williams, how you let him check you like that? And he said from that point on, he had no guardrails, right? The same things happened in college. He was the aggressive player, right? Nobody checked him because he was good, right? No guardrails. Let's take this and bring it back to our community policing area, right? If we don't put some guardrails in place that says our police force, federal, state, or local, are there to protect and serve, they're there to do community policing, right? We're going to let an action like this blemish the entire police force. We're going to set a polarization between our populace and our people that doesn't need to be there. And so the righter you do the wrong thing, the wronger you become, right? This was a tragic wrong. Let's not try to spin it. Let's not try to redefine it. That officer reacted instinctively in the wrong way because of poor training. His poor training put him in front of that vehicle that was running and in gear. Let us not move away from those obviouses because they lead to an outcome that we don't want to accept in this country. How do you get me on all of these rants like this? But that's the way I truly feel.
Yeah. And on that point, and on that note, I think about military experience and what I'm saying is I think of PTSD, because that's ultimately what it was. He had a traumatic incident, and then it just bled into something that happened in real time. And like you said, to your training, what is the recovery mechanisms that help prevent that stuff? Because did anybody check his mental awareness, where he's at there, being dragged a couple feet? I could imagine it does create some. But
the underlying situation, in my humble opinion, is that right now we the people are in a battle for the soul of America. Right, we're in a battle for how we are represented on that global world stage. right? We're in a battle for, how we treat our federal fellow citizens, right? Do we feel comfortable pouring the wine and eating the grapes, right, while they struggle? Or are we a kinder, gentler nation that shares the wealth, right? We right now are in a battle for the soul of our nation, and I'm confident that the spirit of America is going to show up and show out. I'm confident that we are going to reindustrialize this nation in a fair and equitable way. I'm confident that we are going to take some of these actions that are creating conflicts in nations, sovereign nations, right, that we ain't got no business, right, even messing with. I'm confident that those kinds of actions are going to be reined in. I'm not confident that it's going to be reined in by the House, though. I'm not confident that it's going to be reined in by the Senate, right? Because I believe that we've allowed political action committees and, that whole process to run amok. So we're going to have to reimagine that. And in order for us to reimagine that, the grown-ups have to show up, right? We, the people, have to show up and make sure that the elected officials that go into office during this midterm cycle are people that have the spirit of America, right? The ideal of America, not the ideal of the right or the ideal of the left, but the ideal of these United States, right? Firmly in their DNA. And it's a part of not just their platform, but it's a part of their promise.
Yes, sir. Now, being the fourth branch, that comes with a responsibility. And right now we are seeing a lot of people, try to jump into this game because they see dollar signs, but they don't really respect these rules, So there were reports that SDVOSB spending is. So Sam Lee, let me rewind. Sam Lee had an article where he said that SDVOSB spending is down for the first time in a decade. We got this SBA audit deadline coming on January 19, where they're
so just for the audience, because we do this a lot. Mr. Hill and I have these robust conversations, and we'll pivot around a hairpin turn and not let you know that we made the pivot. So help the audience know what pivot we're going to now, Mr. Hill.
Okay, yes, sir, absolutely. I was just gonna double down on the we the people and essentially taking control of this narrative and understanding why businesses need to respect not just businesses, why everybody needs to respect the rules, the laws, and the regulations, and why they're in place, and why it's important.
Gotcha. And the question is,
what happens when businesses try to get into federal contracting without really understanding how the system works?
Well, yesterday it created a real problem for them because, they weren't able to crack the code, and we had a large number of people that were signed up to do business in the federal government that never got any contracts, right? Never did any business. And that was under yesterday's paradigm, right? In today's paradigm, where you have this morphing, right? You have this convergence in the acquisition system. If you don't know what you're doing, you could really be victimized in this process, because a lot of the contracts in the federal government have very strong punitive conditions. And if you sign up to one of those lowest cost, technically acceptable contracts, and you say you're going to be able to deliver at this price point, and it turns out, oops, I didn't remember this particular cost. Doesn't matter. You and Uncle Sugar have to work that out. And Uncle Sugar is going to expect you to adhere to that price that you set up, even if you have to sell your house. So the truth of the matter is that in this season, the federal contracting arena represents a very attractive arena to take a look at, because they are transitioning about $1.3 trillion worth of wealth as they're consolidating that stuff over into the federal government's purchasing agent. And as that stuff moves with this DEI practice going on, some of the 8A audit activity is shaking out hundreds of millions of dollars worth of contracts that are being novated during that season. But the point that I'm making very simply is that as that activity is transitioning over, this is the best time for you to capture a portion of that wealth, but you have to know how to do it. So how is the federal government going to be buying goods and services in 2026, given the FAR rewrite, right? Given the consolidation under Executive Order 14240, what is the methodology for buying today? Is it sole contract at the agency level? Is it through the GSA? Is it through one of the other MSA contracts like SOUP, or like what? How is the government buying the day? And who do you talk to find out? Right.
And not to cut your wisdom, but that's exactly what you teach in that February class, how to know who to talk to, the best strategies to use. And that's something that they could get ultimately from, the February class.
And you know what? I'm not going to do the shameless plug about the cotton method that I've developed, which gives you a streamlined approach towards capturing rack and pinion steering on this. And it's responsible for more than $150 billion worth of wealth transfer. And you could get your understanding of it too by following the URL that you see moving across the screen and being one of the people that's in the next class. And this class, I'm going to tell you, is discounted. It's discounted because I took that position as the president of the Elite Disabled Veteran Network, and I'm building that out for my members. So I'm discounting it on the way in. But I'm not going to do that shameless plug. I'm not going to do that shameless plug. You can get out of the mustard and catch up on that one when you want to. What I will tell you is those people that think it's business as usual and that you can do, contracting the old way, well, first thing you got to do is get registered in SAMS, right? And then you see if you got, one of the preferences, like, if you're a minority, you can get the 8A, you go register for that. Those equations have been disrupted, right? There's a new game in town. And if you don't know the rules, you're going to get an L. You are going to lose.
So basically what I'm hearing you saying is ignorance is expensive. And if you don't know the rules, you aren't discerning, you're a liability.
You are a critical liability, and you're a critical liability for my fraternity. And I'm saying that because what I have been touting is my belief that America wants its veterans to be rich. And I say, if that weren't so, there wouldn't be evidence. What kind of evidence do we have? They've disturbed the small disadvantaged business contracting program, right? It's persona non grata. Where are all of those contracts going to go? Into the women-owned business program? I don't think so, because there's a lot of focus and scrutiny on whether or not those women owners of the construction company are literally the owners of the construction company and not their husband. So there's some focus being paid there. And for the first time in history, right, the SBA grew a pair and said, hey, I want to take a look at these 8A contracts, right? I want to see if these contracts that we've been awarding sole source without advertising, whether or not there's any fraud, waste, and abuse back there. So they've disturbed the small disadvantaged business community. They've disturbed the woman-owned business community, right? They've disturbed the 8A community, the A and C community. The only community that they have not disturbed is the service disabled veteran preference community. In this season where the FAR Council has rewritten the FAR and said, if you disturb any of these other categories, you got to leave it in the category, that's made the service disabled veteran the least risk, the best award source in this season. Dare I say, they are the safe harbor. So let me knit this all back together for you, because what I've said is I believe America wants its veterans to be rich. I said, if that were the case, there would be evidence. The evidence that I'm showing you is they've left disabled veterans as the safe harbor during a $1.3 trillion wealth transfer. Ergo, if you are a disabled veteran and you're razor sharp and tiger tough, right? You've got past performance, you got capability and capacity, you got your feces amalgamated, and you're a bigger small business, you have the ability to write your own ticket. You have the ability to look out at whatever portion of that $1.3 trillion wealth transfer that's moving and say, I'd like you to award that one to me. And they, by law, have to award it to you. You're not going to find another season as rich as this. The differentiator is know-how. Mm-hmm. The differentiator is knowing your rights under the law and knowing how to apply them against the opportunity. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm encouraging you, dare I say, begging you to figure out in this season.
Indeed, indeed. In this curriculum, we talk about infrastructure, we talk about being contract viable and contract ready. Why is it dangerous for people to try to figure this out on their own, meaning try to use YouTube University, even AI, instead of getting into a structured environment like what we have coming online in February?
Because this is a community, an ecosystem that has a mature exploitation factor, right? There have been cottage industries out there exploiting the women-owned businesses, pimping the minority businesses, rent-a-vetting the veteran community. So this is a caveat emptor environment. Let the buyer beware. And if you don't know, because of the size of these contracts and requirements, right, the opportunists are going to come in and try to see if they can relieve you of that money. So it is critical when you are dealing with this kind of an opportunity that you study yourself approved, because it's real money. And the carpetbaggers and opportunists are coming. And when I say it's real money, you can't get the kind of meteoric financial outcome that you can get in government contracting from anywhere else but gambling and athletics, right? You can't go from being, Joe around the corner to the multi, millionaire. Other than you got a lottery ticket or you got a crossover that kills, right? Without something like federal contracting, right? Federal contracting created Dave Stewart, Worldwide Technologies, one of the richest Black families in North America. He was a lowly 8A out of St. Louis, right? The number of millionaire families that have been created that are veterans through Public Law 10650, you go check the statistics, right? My friend Bill Elmore and I, we kind of say it's about $350 billion worth of wealth transfer that has occurred. So the opportunity for the veteran who's got his feces amalgamated and knows how to leverage the bigger small business strategic alliance approach, writes their own ticket in this season. And I'm saying as loudly as I can, get in the game, man. Get off the sideline, get in the game. You don't have to take my class. You don't have to do the Cotton method. It would be in your best interest. Get in the game. We need you in the game. America needs you off the sideline. Leave it there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Guys, if you found this information valuable, and if you want to build generational wealth and you know somebody who wants to build generational wealth, can you please like and share this and repost this to an individual that you beyond? Mr. Cotton, if you if for someone who's watching this and they realize they don't fully understand the system yet, what should they do next?
They should send a email to Retwan Hill at ability2.biz and schedule an opportunity to see if they could get some cotton in their ear. They should schedule a consultation with one of us, is what I'm trying to say, right? That would be the most immediate thing that they could do.
Absolutely, guys. And that has been another round of My Patriot Report Live. I am Retwan Hill, and that is the Mr. Walter Cotton III. Until next time, guys, we are out.